Okay, welcome everybody. This is Sci-Fi Story Ideas. This is a WordCamp class where we're going to look at stories in the news and tech news and futurology kind of stuff, and we're going to brainstorm ways that we could approach those as either movies, TV shows, or novels. Thanks for being with us. We are on a stage channel, meaning you do have to request to speak if you want to speak out loud. Click that hand raising icon and I can invite you to the stage. You will have to then click the accept button at the top in the green bar to be brought up to speak. In the meantime, you can use the text channel on the left-hand side of the Discord window. Mouse over the classroom and click that small white word bubble that says Open Chat. And then you can leave your questions and comments as we proceed. And if you're watching this on one of our other platforms like Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook, then we should still be able to see most of your comments. Sometimes it takes them a minute to come through. But in any case, you could come join us on Discord and participate live in this class and many other classes and workshops just like this. The website is going to be scriptcamp.net. And if you sign up for unlimited membership, then you get access to every event on every single server, including WordCamp for novel writing, ScriptCamp for screenwriting, and many others that include things like CodeCamp for learning how to code. We have GameCamp for game design. We have TuneCamp for animation, and plenty of others that you can see here in our sort of skill camp group. We are a nonprofit that offers free and low-cost classes to learn new skills to meet your life goals. And all of these are Discord servers, so you should come download Discord if you've not already done so, if you're watching on something else. And you should get the link to join from our website, which you can find by going to scriptcamp.net, and just click that link in the top right, and you'll find the button that joins our Discord server. All totally free to join, and we have plenty of free stuff that is open to the public. And then for our paid subscribers, we have things like the boot camps that go 8 weeks to writing a feature, 6 weeks to writing a TV pilot, and 12 weeks to writing a novel. I've been writing scripts for 12 years. I guess, is it 13 now? Moved to LA in 2015, placed in some contests, got signed in 2017, and have been a working Hollywood writer since then. And a novelist as well. Have not had a novel published yet, but have written, I'm working on my 6th novel now. I had a slide about Becky because I think that was from the last boot camp that she co-hosted. So let's look at the dates for the readings. We have 3 times a week. We have table reads, Sunday 2 p.m., Tuesday 11 a.m., and Saturday 2 a.m. Pacific time. These are all in Pacific time. Then we have Writer's Voice, which is prose readings twice a week, Saturday 7 p.m., so that's tonight at 7, and then Thursday 10 a.m. So let's talk sci-fi stuff. So we are in a world that is rapidly changing every day, and every time you open your phone or turn on the TV, there's some new AI development or tech news of some kind or some crazy new thing that would have been absolutely sci-fi material 20 years ago. But now the world is, we're changing very rapidly and things are going in some crazy directions. So this is a great time to talk about sci-fi and the things that we can do with sci-fi and what sci-fi is ultimately for. Helping us sort of collate and organize our thoughts on complex topics, for instance, because when you have such a broad and complex array of very complicated, very advanced technological concepts and trends and changes and things that are happening in culture in the world, it's hard to figure out what your thoughts are on everything and to organize your thoughts because we only have so much brain space. And turning things into stories allows us to kind of figure out our opinions on those things. Does that make sense? So I think that's one of the major valuable roles of storytelling, especially when it comes to things like current events, historical stories, and sci-fi, is that all of them kind of contextualize some of the massive overload of information that's constantly all around us and is constantly, now that we have, we're checking cell phones every morning when you wake up in bed, that information that is constantly washing over us. Stories help us understand the world. And I think sci-fi, especially when so many topics require such an advanced education to understand, I think that stories help us kind of deliver the same technological concepts in a more digestible way that everybody can kind of get and everybody can see the implications of and everybody can form an opinion on. Of course, every story is going to have that level of bias and that sort of that inherent bias that any, like whether it's a fiction story, a nonfiction story, journalism, or anything else, every story being presented has a level of bias because every person is biased in their own way. But it's our job as authors to kind of present the good and the bad, right? Like the potential that these things, and that's I think where different genres come in. Like sci-fi horror is a great place to explore how new technologies can damage or harm us. And then we have things like like utopian sci-fi or things like this, sci-fi comedy maybe, or sci-fi fantasy movies that might suggest these are ways that tech could be used to help us. Maybe even those same technologies that could be used for bad directions, or, be taken in bad directions. So stories are kind of used for helping us organize our thoughts on where things could go, and they help us understand our world better. That's how I view it, at least, and that's why I think sci-fi is valuable and always will be, and also just as this critical tool of sort of not only understanding the world, but speaking truth to power in the way that many countries and cultures around the world are not exactly free in terms of speech or expression, and sci-fi is one of those elements or one of those areas that allows us to talk about otherwise forbidden or inaccessible topics, which it historically has definitely been used for in many different ways. So that's just like a little bit on my thoughts on sci-fi lately and why I decided to do this class right now. I think we'll start by talking about the big idea, and then we're going to go into, for every news story, I'll bring up a volunteer, and you guys can help me brainstorm and do some critical thinking on different areas to take that story, figure out whether it is a show, a movie, or a book, and kind of start to shape it into, the general area that a story might be, or to help angle exactly what story area we might even try to explore with that concept. So this is similar to what you're doing when you're pitching features and stuff, right? Like often there will be an article that a producer buys. They're like, okay, I have bought this article about solar power. Is there a movie in this? And you have to kind of wrangle the facts and figure out who would the characters be, what are they trying to do, what's standing in the way, what's interesting and relevant about this, what's relevant about this now versus relevant universally and for all time. All of these kinds of things are this is sort of like the grunt work of being a working screenwriter, is pitching on things like adaptations or articles or journals or, journal entries or anything else that can be acquired as IP, short stories. If they buy a one-page short story, they're like, what's the movie here? You have to be able to pick apart what is the broad topic being examined, funnel it down into a more specific approach to that same topic, and then give your take and your own personal approach to what would this be if I were to write the movie, right? And making that all fit both within sci-fi, but also within the emotional experience of the genre that you are kind of using as part of your take. Your take is sort of referring to your specific expression of how that material would work in a narrative form. So like multiple writers can have different takes on how one idea would work, or one broad area of scientific topic, for instance. Okay, hope that makes sense. And Nacho has also posted in the chat a great list of upcoming classes. So if you're not sure what the schedule's looking like coming up for the next few months, we have new boot camps starting up in the next few weeks. We also have a bunch of these sort of one-off classes coming up and going on even right now. This is one of them right now. But check the chat in our Discord server by mousing over Classroom, clicking the white word bubble that says Open Chat, and you can view the list of all the upcoming class dates. Thank you, Nacho. Our first ever romance novel class, by the way, March 30th. Okay, big idea. Movies and TV shows and books in the sci-fi world, they usually are going to funnel down to, we can't include we can't explore everything, right? Technology is a very broad and complicated umbrella of different things, right? There's many different types of technologies. And while your stories can be set in worlds that we have certain assumptions of what might be possible in that world, it's usually going to be best, especially in movies, because a movie is such a short story, to focus on just one big idea, whereas a TV show might have one or two, maybe three kind of big ideas. If you're Westworld or Battlestar Galactica, maybe you start adding more big ideas as it goes on and it gets to be a total mess, perhaps. And I love both those shows, but come on, Battlestar Galactica Season 5... is Starbuck an angel? What is going on? You know what I mean? So I find it best to limit your big ideas and then to try to go deeper in those and add more aspects to and explore the big ideas that you already have in more dimensions. Severance is a great example of this. Severance, the TV show, has one big idea that it really deeply goes into and kind of explores and extrapolates all of the various sort of potential hazards and dangers and good parts and parts that are okay and parts that would be controversial, all of this same technology, and uses it to sort of explore the human condition and work-life balance and relationships and all of these things in a brilliant, brilliant way. So Severance, having that one central idea, it's able to cover a lot of ground, right? So I think it's best to try to funnel down your big ideas and not have too many. It just makes it easier to pitch a sci-fi property based on a big idea if it's something that's simply expressed, something that fits nicely on a poster, the cover of a book, or a t-shirt, something like that. So, Luke mentions in the chat, all based on this question, what if you turn your brain off at work? Yeah, or I guess you might even phrase it something like, who are you when you're at work, right? Or are you a different person when you're at work versus when you're at home? All of these are kind of variations on that same central idea, right? But it does have that kind of wish fulfillment aspect, doesn't it? Which is, what if I never had to? What if I could cut work out of my life experience and just do everything else? Wouldn't you want to do that? On its surface, it sounds kind of good, right? Nobody likes doing boring, tedious, difficult, draining things. So I think that a lot of these kind of dystopian sci-fi stories have to have an initial kind of wish fulfillment element to them, where it's like, oh, of course that seems like a good idea, until you start to peel back the layers from it again and again and again. Becky says she loves her job. Well, most people don't, so you can see where the wish fulfillment comes from there. Okay, so big ideas. We're going to try to funnel down our big ideas and go deeper into them and figure out all the various strange and cool implications, especially the implications that will play into our genre or take of choice, right? Because if you're doing horror, you have to be able to imagine what are the cost and consequences or dangers of using this. Whereas if you're writing utopian, you have to imagine, how could this go gloriously right, for instance. So I have a couple examples of big ideas here just back up behind me. I think I even have Severance as one of them. But we have Altered Carbon, which is a big one, and has a lot of stuff going on in it. But ultimately, if we're to simplify and just present what is the central big idea, consciousness upload and posthumanism, where we can transfer the minds of people between sort of different organic bodies. Sleeves, as they call them. We have Minority Report. The topic is criminal justice, and the specific take, or the specific approach, is pre-crime, which is this agency that can arrest criminals before they act. And of course, that's again one of those just sort of dystopian ones that has to have that initial hook, that initial kind of, oh, of course that's a good idea. Why wouldn't we want to arrest criminals before they commit the crimes? And then it dovetails very nicely to this philosophical discussion, right? Of like, well, if we didn't do it yet, then how did you know he was going to do it? Well, we have psychics that can that can determine with 100% accuracy. But I didn't do it yet, so how do you know? It sort of it uses this idea of what if we could stop crime with cool future cops, and uses it to examine questions of free will in a very brilliant way. Ready Player One is all about VR and social media. The big idea being this central oasis, which is this massive kind of metaverse thing that Facebook tried to make, and it was really dumb and bad. But like, what if it was cool? I guess is the central idea of that movie. And then we talked about Severance, which is the topic is corporate work-life balance, and the big idea is Severance, which is this procedure that allows an employee to separate their experience inside the office and their experience outside the office, making their memories essentially spatially dictated and bifurcating their mind into two halves, the work version and the outside version. Essentially two separate people. So you can see how we can boil down from that bigger idea to the more specific and nuanced approach within that idea, because you can have many different takes on the same topic, right? Like criminal justice is a huge topic. You could have a movie all about the prison system, futuristic prisons. What about reform? What if we could wipe criminals' memories? What if is it ethical to rewire criminals' brains so that they are no longer criminals and we can reduce recidivism or things like this, right? So you can have a million different takes on the same topic, which is why we have to kind of find the specificity and the strength of the idea comes from its uniqueness and our kind of approach to it. That's what you bring to it. That's what any other author wouldn't bring to it. And that's what you're doing when you're pitching also, is you're clarifying what would you specifically do with this that others might not do. Luke says Star Trek has a few episodes about rewiring criminal brains. Yeah, Star Trek has, like, this list of topics behind me, Star Trek has, like, done it all. Star Trek is the Simpsons of sci-fi. So here's just like a list of big topics. List of big topics. You don't have to memorize this or anything, but this is sort of arranged from most commonly explored, I guess, at the top to least commonly explored at the bottom, that we did just talk about in Minority Report. And you could look at something like Devs, the Alex Garland show on FX, which is, again, about this idea of scientific predestination, which is almost merging these ideas of philosophy, religion, and spirituality and science all in one, which is always so cool when sci-fi can find a way to sort of bridge the gap between philosophical and spiritual discussions in the real world that we live in and the world that we could be going to. So I'm not going to go through this whole list, but you can just see these are a bunch of areas that we have interest in, and clearly there have been many stories told in these different areas. The ways that we're going to approach these most of the time are going to be, these are like the most common sci-fi movie subgenres. We have horror thriller, everything from your Invisible Man to your Alien. We have action, where we are facing a sci-fi threat or combating the threat in a sci-fi way, or both, Like Men in Black is both, right? We are fighting aliens using alien technology. Adventure, where we have not necessarily going to be based on interpersonal violence and conflict, but it will have an element of heightened danger. Usually going to be more sort of people versus environment, or people versus the planet kind of movies, right? So it's going to be your Armageddon, where we have to stop the giant asteroid, or your Interstellar, where we have to find a new homeworld for humans, or Gravity, where you're separated from your ship. And now there's still going to be that really high level of threat and stakes, but it isn't going to be based on people shooting each other usually, or robots shooting each other. And then we have drama, which you're going to see more. It's a sci-fi drama is like a pretty undefined area that we have examples of it. Truman Show is a dramedy, right? Arrival is like a sci-fi drama, basically, with some like political thriller elements. Her has romance elements kind of in there, so you can see that drama can include shades of many different sort of things. But there are some subgenres that are just not exactly defined at all. Like sci-fi romance, most people would not say is an established genre. Sci-fi comedies do exist, but they're not. It's just not super codified what that looks like or feels like. So you can do whatever you want within sci-fi, but this is where most popular big movies are going to fall. And then we have the many subgenres, of course. I'm sure you guys have heard of many of these in some way. We have everything from alternate history to social sci-fi, military sci-fi, wacky farce, steampunk, superhero, and everything else. We don't have to go into all these terms right now, but these are just sort of sci-fi ideas, some of which are things that we are approaching or are more rooted in reality than others. For instance, this idea of singularity is something that people are talking a lot about lately, especially with rapid developments in AI. And this idea of AGI, which stands for, I believe it's Advanced General Intelligence, or Artificial General Intelligence, which is essentially an AI that thinks and reasons at the same level of a sentient human being. It is a theoretical concept, but one that people are talking about more, maybe actually being kind of possible lately. We have some of them that are not really based on anything exactly, like psionics, which are kind of like, what if through sci-fi you could do magic, kind of? Like, what if you could manipulate your own brain atoms in such a way that you're essentially casting spells or reading people's minds or whatever? Stuff like, Dune has elements of this, or like anything where people can use brain powers to do magical type stuff. Midichlorians in Star Wars are sort of a form of psionics, because it's like, okay, we've kind of gone from this being an undefined spiritual energy to this being the result of microbes in your blood, so I guess this is now more sci-fi than fantasy. Who knows exactly what's going on there? Becky says sci-fi romance is growing. Her, the time traveler's wife. Yeah, but hers not like a capital R romance. That's a tragic romance. That's like a doomed romance, isn't it? It's like really sad. Time Traveler's Wife I haven't seen, but that's kind of complicated too, as far as I understand. I think it might be capital R, but there's a movie and a show and a book, so I can't actually say how different they are. Also, I don't even know if Time Traveler's Wife has him using... Is there any pretext of an actual scientific reason why he's leaping through time? I wonder. Okay, looks like we have a comment from Facebook from John Bounds. Hi, John. I have an idea that needs to be trimmed down to its core hook and story, but having a hard time. Okay, is it if it's sci-fi, we could talk about it in the class today. You could share more. It looks like you're commenting from Facebook. It would be easier if you joined from Discord, just because you could speak with us more easily and things like that. But feel free to let us know more about your idea if you'd like. We can find a time to go into that if it's sci-fi based today. If it's not sci-fi based, you might want to just come back in a different workshop, or maybe if you sign up, then you can obviously attend writers' labs or things like that. So what else? Becky says ultimate sci-fi romance WALL-E. Yeah, WALL-E's basically, it's like an adventure with a romance subplot, I guess I would say. But in some ways he is motivated by meeting Eva in the first place, so maybe it is a romance. Hadn't really thought about it in those terms. So here's our critical thinking chart. We are doing who, what, where, when, why, and how. And we are going to start with broad topic and then funnel it down to the more unique and specific approach. We're going to ask, does the idea seem most fitting for movies, TV show, or novel? So let's see some hands for volunteers. And you guys are going to come up. I'm going to ask you questions, and we're going to look at topics, and you're going to brainstorm. Where's the idea here? What is the idea? How would the movie, show, or book work? Looks like we got Dakota. Hi, Dakota.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. You ready to look at some fun sci-fi headlines? They're not even sci-fi. These are real headlines. But so I'll show you the headlines, and you can pick which one you want to work on or think about. And this way, everybody will get to kind of look at them and start thinking about the different ones to begin with. So let's do a quick review of all of them. Why don't you read the headline for us? Is this concerning at all? It's a little concerning that that just something about the phrasing there. For a game. What is? Are you Jigsaw? What's going on here, sir? Let's look at the next one. Isn't that cool? Look how big it is. That's a boat down there for scale. Like, if that helps, that's a boat right there. So this thing is massive, and I think with these ideas also we can always think, what if it got even bigger? Let's look at the next one. We have, this is not an article, it's actually a video clip I found, but future of transport. Have you seen these things? The little robot, I think it's Boston Robotics that does these dog things, and they use them for all kinds of stuff, from rescue operations to off-road, like carrying stuff off-road. They can dig through rubble. They can do all kinds of stuff. So it's a robot taking a carriage, I guess. How about this one? Yum. The sweets have gotten out of control. Yeah, that's a good way to get some kind of mutant thing virus, I feel. Next one. What could go wrong? Maybe not the most reputable source on this one. Even looking at the website, Fortune. Well, this one might be both a load of bull, so we can ignore. You can pick whichever one you want. It seems this one sounds a little silly, but you can also even just take the basic idea of, like, technology that could reverse aging. We don't always have to talk about this specific instance if it seems like bullshit. Always err on the side of fun. Okay, so which one appeals to you the most? All right, let's bring up the article. So this is a more reputable website on this one. We have Live Science, AI drone that could hunt and kill people built in hours. The scientists who configured a small drone to target people with facial recognition, by the way, and chase them at full speed warns we have no defenses against such weapons. Whoops, I hope this is not paywalled. Oops, there we go. Okay, it only took a few hours to configure a small commercially available drone to hunt down a target by itself, a scientist has warned. So an entrepreneur and engineer incorporated an AI system into a drone that he used to chase people around as a game. Collaborating with another engineer, he configured the drone to use object detection models to find people, but specific people, right? It has facial detection, and fly towards them at full speed. So it works at a range of up to 33 feet for the facial recognition, and it could be used to attack specific people or targets. It took just a few hours to build, and he was able to do it with just stuff that he bought from the store. That's the basics. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of interesting drone stuff lately. Let's pick a central. Well, let's just hear your initial thoughts, and then we'll dig deeper. We'll pick a question to look at. What's your initial take? Sure. What if a terrorist got it, I guess is the question, right? Yeah. So it's like a whole new type of Unabomber. We no longer have to
Yeah.
mail the bombs to people or crazy. I don't want to give anyone any ideas, but I'm just saying if you were a mad bomber and you buy 100 drones, we're in trouble. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
it's just the ease and accessibility of this is definitely
right.
a
But
core
if
concern.
everybody got everything in scope, like that's that's concerning. So,
Let's pick a central question. You want who, what, where, when, why, or how?
hmm, let's do. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Good one. Okay. Let's do why.
Why? Great. Okay. Why is this a problem or a challenge?
Well, it's clearly a moral problem because if you have someone that has a gun that you feel like they're about to use, you're not allowing the person your process to be free and fair. You're basically the judge, jury, and executioner at this point. It's essentially the collateral power of order. There is no logic to do this unless you are completely psychopathic and just do not like people at all.
So the difference between this and just somebody having a gun, though, is what? That the drone removes accountability or the ability to tell who's doing it?
It yes, it
Right.
removes the personal aspect of it. It's like you can't you like oh blame the drone, not the person doing it.
Sure. Or it might just be hard to tell who's sending the drones, I guess, right? Like where they even come from. It's blown up. The evidence is gone.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
Sure.
right, for sure.
So I would say yes, it's a problem slash challenge in that respect. Is it relevant to me or to others?
Uh, I would say so.
Why?
Because I think that when you're talking about like the ability of like people taking others' lives, we have so so much news about these shootings and how they use it. You know, I've personally in the place that I'm in, we've personally had two shootings in the past 3 weeks.
In
That's
3 weeks?
a massive problem. Yeah,
Good
yeah,
lord.
two shootings in like 3 weeks, and very close to where I'm at, which is really crazy because you don't get a lot of those here.
Mhm.
So it's like the thought of people just kind of coming in and just kind of doing it is is heartbreaking, and it's also it could happen anywhere. It is one of those things where you can't exactly you can't predict what people are going to do. You don't know every person what they're thinking and what they're going through, but to know that people resort to such measures is it's completely devastating and heartbreaking. You really feel for for what's going on. So I mean, I think that if you just take into the account of the fact that shootings are going on, just that alone, like I think everybody can relate to that.
Sure, that's a good answer. So you're saying, why is this relevant? The answer is because shootings and terrorism already happen, and this would make them easier
Right.
to do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Yes. Good point. Let's flip the script, though. Why is there a need for this? Why might this actually be good?
So it could potentially be good because could it could result in we could go after certain people that are actively committing terrorism.
Sure.
We could they could go we could wipe out certain groups. We could end wars or things like that. It could be a military weapon. Um, that could be used in wartime. That could instead of risking the soldiers, you could risking a drone instead. So it could replace a lot of boots on the ground kind of thinking. Um, so I mean there is that too.
What if it could be used to topple a dictatorship? You know what I mean?
It could, yeah, it could, absolutely, it could. There's so many things that it could be used for. I mean, you could use it for dictatorship.
True.
You
True.
can essentially use this thing to get whatever job you need to do. Because just because it can kill people doesn't necessarily mean it does all the time.
Right.
So it could potentially just be there. It could help the police too.
Hmm. Search and rescue.
Yeah, search and rescue, like just different kinds of things.
Instead of a bomb, you could put food on it, for instance, or some medicine. you know,
Right.
swap out the bomb, and then it becomes slightly less harmful, I would say.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it could be used for like aid, like foreign aid, and for just hey. I mean, Amazon basically has this anyway, pretty much.
Yeah, this is Amazon delivery, isn't it? Exactly.
you know.
So what's recurring to me is this, or the things that are leaping to my mind are the sort of most relevant scenarios. We have the Mad Bomber, and then you have, to me, the other really big one that I'm thinking of is small rebel group taking down a much bigger bad guy group, right? Or they don't have to be bad guys, but this allows and sort of democratizes violence in a way that is bad in lots of ways, as we've discussed, but also in a story could be about a group of ragtag rebels taking down the evil warlord, right?
Right, right.
So, so let's think of which one of those appeals to you? Or obviously, if you have another idea, that's cool too. But what are your first thoughts on? Is there a movie, a show, or a book in any of those, or in what do you think?
Sorry, Connor, just to let you know, people on YouTube are not able to hear Dakota.
Oh, they're not. Why is that? I wonder. Let me make sure all the
Just
levels are set.
OBS.
Can you try talking, Dakota?
Can you hear me? Red leather, yellow leather.
I think yeah, I think his volume's just set low. Let me turn his volume up. Try again.
Hello, everybody.
Whoa.
Hope
Okay.
you all are doing well today. Super.
I think I overdid it a little bit. Let me turn it back down. I think that should be perfect. All right, we found the Goldilocks zone. Hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully
Okay.
everyone is able to hear that okay now.
We have a car, ladies and gentlemen.
You might be hearing the various traffic outside my window. Yes,
No, you're fine.
they were
You're
doing
fine.
construction on my wall yesterday. That was something.
Oh, joy. I feel.
Okay.
What is that? Okay, so to get back to the question, I
Mhm.
think that um, my gut instinct is this is a TV show.
Okay.
This
Why
is
is
a
that?
TV show.
Go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of it is because there are so many different directions you can take with this. You have the opportunity in TV to really get more into like plot and character development, and you can dive into like broader, like you can get into specific themes, but you can tackle more a TV show as opposed to a movie. Like with a movie, you're kind of limited to one. Like it has the tendency to be very myopic, especially with sci-fi in its view. But with a TV show, you can kind of allow different viewpoints to kind of come in and shape the world. It allows the world to be sort of lived in for a little bit longer.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a little bit more appealing as opposed to doing this as a movie, uh, whereas you only have 120 pages to just do whatever it is that you decide to do.
Yeah, I could see maybe sort of if you do the Mad Bomber type storyline as a TV show, imagine like a V for Vendetta style story,
Right.
right? Where there's a sort of mysterious terrorist that is using drones to start to try to take down a government that they see as unjust, trying to spread their message and gain support and followers and things like this. And maybe there's a manhunt for him that would take, a full, maybe a miniseries. I don't know if this would be multiple
Yeah.
seasons exactly in this idea,
Right.
but like maybe at least a limited series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, with Criminal Minds, the last season of Criminal Minds basically did this too. With they had one season and they had the whole thing was like one big arc. That was
Oh,
all
cool.
it was. Yeah, it was really good.
I think Becky has some ideas. Go ahead, Becky.
Um, Mine's just a completely out there idea that would be suitable for like a kids book because obviously I write for kids. And I was thinking something along the lines of, where you get Roald Dahl-esque type stories,
Mhm.
so it's like completely out there. Something like the obesity levels in the UK are so bad now that they are encouraging children to go out and do PE lessons by using this drone that follows them and gives them a shock if they don't do it enough.
What? That's real?
No, I was just thinking.
Oh,
that
you're
would
just
be
thinking of it.
awesome
Okay,
as a
okay.
story.
For some reason, I thought you were saying
Teaching
that
them
someone
up.
was doing that already. Okay.
No. I just think that would make a really interesting story.
Oh, okay. So like a coach, like a personal coach or personal like a helper
Yeah.
drone, I guess is what you're
But
saying.
of course, the kids don't want to use it. Oh, I'm going to steal that for my book. I'm going
Oh,
to steal my
there
own
you go.
idea, you know.
Plagiarism.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of fun. Yeah, the idea that maybe if everybody had if drones are capable of following and recognizing people, everybody has a personal drone, like a pet or like a guardian. That's kind of neat. Or like a demon from Dark Materials.
Yeah, and the kids who are obese or they deem not to do get enough exercise outside, their drones kind of zap them, and or you go even more dystopian. We've gone back to Victorian age where poor children are expected to work, and these drones will take them out if they haven't met their quota.
God, it sucks that we have drones that are that powerful, but we make the children work, and we make the drones hurt the children if they don't work, rather than just making the drones do the work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. We've added you've used technology to add a middle step. Like,
There's so many layers.
yeah, that's pretty twisted. Okay, any last thoughts on this one from either of you guys before we move on to our next article or headline?
Nope.
All right, thank you so much, Dakota. Nice brainstorming.
Thank you. This was really fun. Thank you.
Becky, do you want to do the next one, or do you want to be in the audience?
Go on then, I'll do the next one.
You'll do the next one. Okay.
I'll try and not do evil things to children this time.
I don't believe you. So we did the drone. Actually, really quickly, let me just check the comments to make sure that nobody's posted anything that we've missed and want to take a look at.
Yeah.
So, looking at some comments from YouTube, SoulFlyXX says, "What if a swatter could use the drone but pick the wrong person to swat?" Oh, that could be the start of a good thriller. A tech-savvy man who's built a robot that will defend and hunt anyone that tries to kill him, or something like that. Okay, so yeah, maybe a guy that uses robot bodyguards or drone-based bodyguards to protect himself. That could be kind of cool too. Thank you for the suggestions, everybody. I think there's one more from Food Nerds. My idea for Gamma about a gamma ray burst hits the Earth. Don't know. Okay, this is not linked to the drone thing. That's just a different idea. Thank you for sharing, though. We love all sci-fi ideas here. All right, Becky. So you saw the articles before. I'm just going to scroll through them quickly one more time. Remaining, we have giant solar farms floating on the ocean. Future of transportation, robots carrying carriages, I guess. Lab-grown meat from a woolly mammoth. Flying taxis, or anti-aging medicine.
I'm going to go for the anti-aging medicine.
Okay. So this is perhaps the least reputable of our sources, but let's just talk about the broad idea.
Oh, by the way, apparently people still can't hear us on YouTube, hear me or anyone else on the stage other than you.
Anyone else at all? I have the volume.
It's still hard to hear me and Dakota.
Okay, let me turn.
Yeah, it's just their third party. You know, the other speakers are a little bit quiet on. I guess it's like your levels on OBS. There should be a different level for the Discord sounds.
Yeah, I think I have it up. Try talking, Becky.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Does that work? That sounds loud to me.
Give me 1 second. Let me test it on you.
Okay. This is a lot of wires that we have crossed here. It's kind of a big tangle. So yeah, Nacho can tell us if that's working, but let's dig into anti-aging medicine. So initial thoughts, Becky, before we go into the critical thinking questions.
I mean, it reminds me of that comedy film Death Becomes Her.
Oh, I love that
Remember
movie.
that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The idea that like it can reverse aging, but of course, like we're still gonna have other issues.
Okay.
Like
Sounds perfect.
Okay, good. Thanks.
good. So initial thoughts would be that obviously something's gonna go terribly wrong with this, and either you end up with the brain doesn't develop along with the body, so you end up with a bunch of 30-year-olds that all have dementia. Or
That's a good point. Nobody ever brings that up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my initial kind of thought. Something's going to go wrong with this.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things that feels like such a defiance of the natural order that it's almost tricky to think of how it could go right. Let's look at our big questions. You want to pick who, what, where, when, why, or how?
So, what? Who as in? Oh yeah. I mean, you go one or two ways. Obviously, it'd be the rich that would benefit from immortality. However, if they were testing it out, they would test it out on the poor.
You want to go with who? Okay. So we'll start with who.
Yeah.
Who benefits from this? Only rich people, right? Oh, exclusively rich people are gonna. This is never
Obviously,
gonna
it's gonna be
be
rich people,
for everybody, right?
They're not going to test it out on themselves, are they? They're going to have poor, like, students desperate for cash to test it out on. Maybe this is the birth of the zombie.
What? Say that again?
This is the birth of the zombies.
Birth of the zombies. Okay, so anti-aging.
This is how we get zombies.
Yeah, in I Am Legend, the reason there are vampire zombies is because they have a drug that they think cures cancer. But maybe in this case, it's like, we think it cures aging. I'm sure that could zombify people, in the movie world at least. So yeah, who benefits from this? It sounds like, in theory, everybody, in quotes, but only those that it would be available to, I guess is the answer, which would be pretty limited considering I'm guessing it'd be really expensive. In a world where this was really commonplace, that would be a sort of a different story. I mean, that's not even near, that's like far future sci-fi, where everybody can have this, and that is just like a drastically different world. Let's ask the question, who makes decisions about this?
To get political, probably the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, so I guess starting with them. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like someone like Elon Musk would want to do this, or some dictator. Like, you could imagine it being someone like Putin wanting to keep power. You know, they could be trying to live on forever.
Definitely.
Because they want to keep control. And maybe that's what makes them go crazy.
Sure. This is almost like a WMD if it's in the right hands, right?
Yeah.
So whichever country controls the anti-aging medicine might have a huge advantage over the others in some kind of way, at least in the sense that they have something that everybody wants. So I guess the question of who makes decisions about this, we could expand that into who could make decisions about this, right? Now, what if it was, like, imagine if it was in a more sort of, so like it just entirely depends on the country in which this originates, right? If this comes out in a capitalist country like ours, then whoever makes decisions about it is going to be whoever controls the IP and whoever is able to copy the IP, right?
But if it was a Norwegian scientist who discovered it,
right,
then they'd probably fear for their lives.
Possibly, yes, but I thought you were going to go down the route of in a country with a more socialist, collectivist kind of mindset.
They would, yeah, like how the internet was meant to be free for everybody all of the time when the people created it.
Right, exactly. Could have high, almost utopian aspirations, right? And in a country with pure, like, really, really even distribution of healthcare, in theory, a country could distribute this to all of its citizens, right?
Yes, but then what happens with the country when everyone wants to go to that country?
Right.
And the country that's normally got open borders suddenly has to question everything.
Yeah, you've got like a race of almost immortal Ubermensches that live in the country, or Ubermenschen, I guess I should say, that live in the country. And then everybody else that's trying to get into there, those are all of like the aging almost becomes like a new form of second-class citizen. You're an aging, right?
Yeah.
Kind of cool. That's almost like a YA kind of book in there somewhere, isn't there?
I like the idea of it being more, it's given to everybody. But like then you end up with a tier system of you can't get out of your tier system. So actually, is it a good thing to have anti-aging when your tier is working level for the rest of your life? Forever?
Sure. Yeah, or maybe like imagine what if this was administered whether you wanted it or not? Then in that case, the question of getting to die becomes like, and Luke is working on a story like this, but if getting to actually end your aging or end your life becomes a privilege or something that is locked off from you, that's kind of its own interesting route too, right? Because what if you had immortal slaves? You could just have them. You could just keep them forever, right?
Yep. And then you got the question of people with certain diseases, because yeah, sure, you can have immortality, but I'm a type 1 diabetic, which means I have to inject the rest of my life, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, I wouldn't want this for like 500-600 years.
Right.
You can end up getting sick and of like, you know, and it reverse aging, but does that reverse disease?
I don't think it by default it does. No.
No, exactly. So
let's ask one more question. Which question do you see up in the Who section that you want to tackle, and then we'll look at how we can think of adapting it. Best person to consult. That's an interesting one.
I mean, who is this harmful to? We've talked about that a bit, but you know, that's an interesting, because obviously stories come from conflict. If you have a utopia where everyone just lives forever, that's not a story. So
no, it's a setting maybe, but not a story on its own.
Not a story, exactly. So who is this harmful to? Well, we talked about people with diseases or people who are trapped in a life, but maybe okay, I'm obsessed with prisons, but maybe, you know, where they give people like 500-600 year sentences in prison.
I see where you're going with this.
What if you could actually make them serve that?
That's messed up, Becky. And what if you could do it to children too? Oh, maybe that's a good idea for a book for children.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely sentence people to. You could the level of cruelty you could exact on somebody that lives forever is unlimited. That's the darkest thing I think I've ever said.
Yes.
But the other thing that occurs to me when you ask whom is it harmful to, or to whom is it harmful, is people that don't like their families very much, I would think, because now you are stuck with them forever. Imagine your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents and your great-great-grandparents and 9 generations of your family all live in one house because nobody ever dies.
And then there's overpopulation. You suddenly can't have kids.
Hoarding of resources because people never die, and therefore wealth accumulation and accumulation of property, and is just a hoarding would be off the charts.
Suddenly, like, my parents are allowed to be parents, but I'm not allowed to have a kid because of population. You know, no more children in the world.
Sure, yeah, if people can't die, then the overpopulation could lead to control systems put in place. Go ahead.
That could be the story. No more kids are allowed because, like, people stay the age of 25 forever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
one person does have an illegal child.
That's kind of good. And they want the child to age normally, I guess, perhaps, and not to be part of the whole be 25-year-old forever. I mean, it'd be kind of weird to be 25 and your parents are 25 and their grandparents are 25. And
it would be. Yeah.
I feel like it also can't be immortality. Like, anti-aging, there's a limit to the physicality or to the wear and tear that our bodies can take. I guess that's where we just transfer ourselves into machines or whatever. But let's stick to one topic at a time. Okay, so what are you thinking in terms of, is there a movie, a show, or a book here, probably?
I think it'd be a movie. I think the concept of it is small enough to be contained within a movie if you just kept it to the benefits or downside to anti-aging. It could be contained within a movie. I think if you were going to go bigger, if you were going to go about a whole societal thing, like some sort of war between those who age and those who don't, or some kind of way that society was run, then it would be like a TV show. But I think just the very concept of its creation and how it would change the world would be a movie.
How would it change the world might be a movie. That's true, yeah. Especially if it's going to be sort of it feels like a dystopian, right? It feels like it almost has to be a dystopian. Because we want to present a world where this is extant and normalized. And then, because like it's one of those initial wish fulfillment things. What if society were like that? Wouldn't everything be better? And you're like, yes, of course it would. There's no more aging. It sounds perfect. But then we start to peel back the layers and see that one flaw after another until we realize the system has to change, and we sort of realize who is the one guy or the one group responsible for this, and then we blow up their generator or their base or whatever, that's like the movie version. It's like a Hunger Game version of this almost. Whereas you're right, there could obviously be a whole, like, this is such a expansive topic that you could do a whole show or a whole book series examining this from many different angles. But if we're going the movie angle, it seems like if we want to just go the most straightforward route possible, it's probably sort of like probably an action adventure dystopian. Yeah.
Yeah. With kids.
That's what comes to my mind at least. Or like the most complicated, like imagine, the show Succession. How much more complicated would that be if people couldn't actually die, right? So Succession with 5 times as many characters. God, that would be a true nightmare. Other thoughts? Anything else you want to share on this one, or ideas that you have?
No, I just think, God, I sounded cruel. Nacho's wanting to sentence the inventor to 1 million years in prison.
That's almost the equivalent
of.
of.
I was cool.
Yeah, that's almost to the level of the executioner invents an execution device that's so messed up that the king puts him in it right away. Like there's a couple anecdotes of that from history, like the brass bowl. It might be apocryphal, but anyway, so that is kind of interesting. Governments wouldn't be stable over such long time periods. Nacho mentions, or in theory, theoretically, they would do this to extend their reign indefinitely. So they'd want to use it to make it more stable. But
that's what I was thinking. It would people like Putin, and
it would almost have to become an authoritarian state because your opponents would all live forever too, and they're not going to be happy with someone else being on the throne forever. You know what I mean? So it would be used in an attempt at stability in terms of politics and government, but it couldn't actually create that given human nature.
Yeah.
Great thoughts. Thank you, Becky. Let's do a couple more. We have half the class left, so we can see some more. Let's see some more hands raised, some more volunteers. Nacho, is everything running okay? Does everything sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, good. Looks like we have a volunteer, Naib. Hi there. Can you hear me okay? So we're not getting audio from your mic if you're speaking. You might want to check to see if you're on push to talk mode. You can click the gear icon in the bottom left that says user settings and scroll down to voice and video and make sure that your input device is set up correctly. I'll leave you on the stage, and if you get it fixed, just speak up and I will call on you. In the meantime, I'm going to call somebody else, but feel free to keep trying to get it to work. Other volunteers? Looks like Becky has a question. Why don't we start with a question while we're waiting for to see if Naib can make this work. Go ahead, Becky. Wait, Becky, you're muted.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I had to mute because the dog was crying. I was just wondering about future tech. So as you say, technology is changing so massively, so quickly. I'm writing a futuristic sci-fi, and it's kind of hard to think about new things that might be in the future that's like not already what we've already got, if that makes sense. So like trying to do futurism, I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe it's just hindsight, but it feels like it was easier for the sci-fi authors in the 80s to predict where we'd be now than it is for now to predict where we'd be in like 100 years.
That's an interesting point. I'm not sure if it's a question exactly, but just as an area of discussion, right? And I think that if you look back at the stuff that's really stuck around and has struck us currently as being very prescient, are the exceptions, because there was also just a lot of wild speculation that went nowhere too, right? Like the idea that I remember seeing a bunch of postcards from like early 1900s France that proposed that we'd be mostly living underwater by now, or that like crazy stuff like that, or that we would mostly be living in blimp cities, or any of these kind of like other speculations that are more forgotten because I guess we didn't really go down that route. So I don't think you're wrong. I think it does feel like our understanding of technology is very different now, and we are sort of bombarded with so much information all the time that we sort of see all these possibilities and we're like, somebody's already working on almost everything, right? Like it feels harder to be a pioneer in a world that is more explored. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah, like, you know, for example, I've got a space elevator, which is actually a theoretical thing. It's nothing new that I created. You know, the writers of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, basically, it's the reason we have an iPad, right? Whereas I'm sort of like, well, I can create what might be a new thing, which would be like a sheet you can unroll, so it becomes your pad. But again, people are working on that, like coming up with new bits of technology doesn't exist. I don't know, it just seems hard to do.
It's hard. It can be done. There was a movement to close the patent office in the U.S. in the 1880s because people were like, well, we have the steam engine. What else is there, right? You know what I mean? So I think at a certain point we start drawing I think it's helpful in some cases to draw more from fantasy and to start asking questions of things that are in no way even seem like they could be possible, and start from there and then ask, well, but could it actually be somehow possible? Especially, I mean, we were just talking about immortality, right? Like that's kind of a fantasy idea, but we were looking at it through a scientific lens. So if you want to get outside the box and actually like get a little bit more innovative, I would say start with things that don't even feel remotely possible. Start with things that are pure fantasy, but still have that element of, you know, something that people would crave or something that could really be a danger to us or something like that, right? Like things that would be really viscerally relevant for us. I would say to get out of the box, we have to kind of think more like fantasy writers.
And then my other question about the use of technology is something which I was discussing at length with Luke actually, is obviously I'm writing in the future and I have a lot of sci-fi elements, like I've got a prison in the future, so I've got like force fields and things like that. But then I also think, I'm writing for kids, so I want to keep some things that are grounded. Like I don't necessarily want it all to be tech, but some of my early beta readers have been like, oh, I want it to be more sci-fi, more sci-fi. So the question is, like, how futurist, if you're writing in the future, like how is it okay that you still keep some things from present day, like you just call handcuffs handcuffs? I mean,
yeah,
they keep
I think
improving
so.
on the design, but they're just handcuffs.
We've had handcuffs for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Even, I mean, in 500 years ago, do you think they'd still, you know, would they be like, they wouldn't be using manacles in the future, will they? It's like, no, we are actually using manacles still. We just call them handcuffs now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think less in some, it's always the things that we don't think, or it's not always, but often we see examples of the things that we don't. It's not the first knee jerk thing that you think will be the direction that tech goes, and this is the weird thing about it, right? For instance, in these 90s episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, when they get mail on the ship, they get a stack of tablets, and they hand out a tablet to each person with their mail on it. It's like these writers in the 90s, not that long ago, have conceived of a world with interstellar travel, but not one in which you have your own device that can use Wi-Fi to download mail to it, right? So that's why tech is like it's so sort of unpredictable and crazy in that way. Like it's almost, and like a year or two ago, I never would have thought that AI would be able to write a full book, and now we are there already. Like a great book, maybe not, but a complex and full text, yeah, it actually can. So there, I think that's why, to some extent, wild shotgun speculation is sort of a good thing, because it lets us sort of feel out all the different possibilities, and some stuff will be nonsense and will be discarded and forgotten about, and some stuff will be oddly prescient, and we'll be like, oh, I'm glad somebody thought of that, even if they came up with a bunch of bullshit too.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. Luke, what do you think? You write future stuff.
Oh, we scared him.
Oh, sorry, my mic. It reminds me of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep a little bit. The sort of the mood harp. There's all this stuff about a mood harp that manipulates your emotions, and it's in every home, and like I feel like so much of that story hinged around that idea, but um, it's not what made the transition to film to Blade Runner. You know, it's not sort of the core of what people got out of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Mhm.
So, um, what was the
Yeah.
question?
What was the question?
Yeah.
So we were talking about initially like just new frontiers or areas of technology, and like different things that would be like speculating about the future and how we speculate about the future differently than we did in the past, right? And like where will things actually land as opposed to where do sci-fi authors like to
Yeah.
sort of think they might.
There's
And
all
then we
kinds
went
of
in.
crazy things that don't land in that book about electric animals
Hello?
and stuff.
Hello?
But,
Oh, hello.
oh, hello, we can hear you.
We hear you now.
Hello?
Welcome.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to interrupt. I've never used Discord before, so I had no idea how to turn the mic on.
You're totally fine. We hear you now. You want to do some brainstorming with us?
Sure, yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Luke and Becky. Luke, if you want to volunteer next,
Thank
you're welcome to do the next
Oh, sure.
brainstorm. Is Naib, am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to show you the stories again. You can pick your favorites, and we will dig into it. So the ones we have not yet talked about are giant floating solar farms. Giant floating solar farm. We have robots carrying the future of transport. Robots carrying carriages. We have lab-grown meats of woolly mammoths or extinct animals, and we have air taxis.
I'm gonna go with the what is it called? The solar panels.
Giant floating solar farm. Cool. Let's open the article on this one. The largest floating solar farm in North America is finally online. Let's just glance at the article. So it's in New Jersey, host to an 8.9 megawatt floating solar farm, the largest floating solar array in North America. It's owned by a company called NJR Clean Energy Ventures. It has 16,510 solar panels, and the clean energy they generate is enough to power 1,400 homes annually. Provides 95% of the power needs for New Jersey American Water Canoe Brook Water Treatment Plant. So the article doesn't go much into the implications of this technology or anything like that. It's sort of just check out this cool thing. But what does this initially make you think of? What are your first thoughts?
My first thoughts are like moving towards a world without fossil fuels, something that like this is a brand new technology, or even like on space or something, like how they use like solar panels in space. I don't know, and I feel like I feel like it's supposed to be even bigger, like in the future, like that would be gigantic.
Sure.
So that's what I'm leaning towards. Yeah.
And no reason not to. I can't think, and off the top of my head, I can't think of any downsides. Can you?
No, my only downside is I think it's easy to destroy. Like, I don't know. That's my
Interesting.
only thing. I feel like someone
Interesting.
could drive up and try to blow it up. I feel like that would be the plot of like that would be the target of some kind of terrorism that would set the world back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, hang on. There's probably a movie here in this, but let's ask. I'm already started to think of, because we're talking floating solar farms, right? I'm thinking about pirates right now, and it's making my mind happy. So let's maybe circle back to that. Let's pick a question first, then we'll get into movie or show ideas. So
Okay.
you want to pick how, why, when, where, what, or who?
Oh, wait, oh, that's a good one. I guess let's say how.
How. Okay. So we have how is this similar to blank? How does this disrupt things? How do we know the truth about this? Let's pick one question. Okay. How does this harm us or others? Who would have a problem with giant floating solar farms?
I mean, let's say all of fossil fuels,
True.
everyone who'd worked in that industry, it would be, if it was able to power a large percentage of the planet, we're talking about whole countries that wouldn't have money anymore. So that's a lot of people.
So oil companies, fossil fuel industry, a lot of very powerful lobbies there. That's true. They would be harmed by this
Um,
and would have reason to act against it. Anyone else? Would anyone else be harmed by this or object to this in any way?
I mean, ooh, I don't know because it sounds like such a wonderful thing. I mean, putting it in the ocean is kind of like, okay, we're a little concerned about it going in the ocean. So,
Why are we concerned? So
um,
maybe let's think, for instance, if a community relies on its river and a big corporation fills the river with solar panels, something like that could maybe get in the
yeah,
way of people's living situations, right?
hmm
Or
yeah,
shipping routes could be, or like boats could be impacted by them in some way, or if, especially if they have some kind of security or guards around them, like imagine you have to kind of protect these things, right?
yeah.
And those might
Or
cause
like
problems
how
too.
it was.
Go ahead.
That's true. And how it was built, like it could have been built in like they could have used like a lot of labor and maybe they like the way it was built. A lot of people were upset the way how they were like forced to do it. It could have been something that was forced labor, and so people have a vendetta against that project.
Sure.
So,
So maybe in less developed parts of the world, the demand for these would allow for exploitation in terms of like uh, we exploit people who are forced to make these things. I guess I don't
mhm.
exactly know how they're constructed or who is responsible for it at the moment.
Not
Um,
sure either.
so let's look at a different question. How does this disrupt things? So it definitely does disrupt things if it's removing profits from fossil fuel industries, right?
hmm
So what else changes?
Um, if only, let's say, I don't know, it's only the US that has control over this and everybody else doesn't have, so that would definitely disrupt. The US has clean energy forever and nobody else does. I mean, that would disrupt things.
Good point.
Yeah.
This would make solar panel companies or solar power companies way more powerful, right?
Yeah.
Which
That's
could
right. Yeah.
disrupt the tech sector and energy sector as well.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think of some I'm mostly in the movie world on this one personally. I'm mostly
Yeah,
an
I agree.
action thriller type of writer, so maybe that's why. Let's move to these questions though. What are you thinking in terms of stories? Any ideas?
I think it definitely is a movie. Like it definitely revolves around either trying to destroy this gigantic solar panel or trying to save it from being destroyed. Something about it, like somebody is like someone is upset about that it was built.
Yeah,
So it definitely revolves around that.
that's like a Die Hard type of setup almost, where we have a small, or maybe it's even sort of like The Last Stand or that sort of archetype of story, where we have a small group that needs to defend the solar panel. I think we want to defend the solar panel in the movie. I think we'd rather root for the people defending it, right?
Yeah, I rather yeah, because the solar panel is great. I love the big solar panel. So
Yeah.
I think yeah,
So maybe or like a Last Samurai sort of thing, where we have like only a few defenders standing against waves of attackers. I love the ocean setting for it, so this could have a modern pirate kind of
mhm,
vibe to it. Imagine an oil company that you mentioned; they would be the ones harmed by this, right? What if they sponsored a bunch of mercenaries and pirates to take down and attack the world's biggest solar farm?
yeah, that's
That's
pretty
kind of
good.
cool.
That's
That's
great.
like some Mad
Yeah,
Max on the water, kind of like water world
yeah.
combat, like
Mhm.
kind of stuff like that. I think that's dope. I mean, that's like the action thriller. I mean, feel free to give me your take. You're the one. You're the guest. So, what is your approach to that?
No, I totally agree. Like, definitely, I'm thinking of Waterworld has come to my head, Mad Max, but on water. I definitely feel like it's like something like I haven't seen any James Bond movies, but it sounds like the plot of like a James Bond movie where somebody's trying to blow up this gigantic solar panel, and we have to stop them before they do it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And we could have lots of great set pieces in the middle. Imagine so like if these are in the open ocean. First of all, we're in international waters, so there's no laws. Um,
Right.
these and you could like that might be the biggest in a world where the ocean has kind of been carved up into corporate owned areas, right? Like this, Amazon owns this patch of the ocean, and all their solar panels are there, and they have all their guardian mercenary boats all around it, right? Like we could almost look at it as like a cyberpunk fracturing of the ocean, where different sectors provide power for different countries or for different companies and different things like this. So in that way, we could have sort of see like maybe even imagine little societies built entirely around floating solar panels. That could be cool.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like like they definitely stumble into, I don't know, like a cantina, but on the ocean, but on the
That's
ocean
dope.
surface. Or something. So
You could make like
no, I'm gonna
it's like a
write.
yeah, like a western or like a the ocean becomes the new Wild West almost in this kind of world where we have self
Yeah,
sufficient communities. It's like Waterworld, but in a more grounded approach to that.
yeah,
That's
I
dope. I would
agree.
definitely watch that. I want to see like jet ski combat. I want to see solar farms that have cannons mounted, like mounted machine guns around the exterior. I want to see mines floating in the water around them with boats getting blown up, hordes of ships descending on each other with machine guns blazing. There's something here. I think it's cool.
It's totally great. I think so, and there has to be a character that doesn't like the water. There always has to be a character
Oh,
that
sure.
doesn't love water,
A
and like they overcome
hydrophobic,
it.
a hydrophobe, I guess
Yes,
you'd call them. Maybe with rabies.
yes,
Don't people with rabies get hydrophobia? Um,
yes, yes.
So yeah, maybe so in that case, if it's somebody who doesn't like water, then that's like sheriff. What's his name? The sheriff from Jaws. Doesn't he even have a thing about the ocean or the water, where he's like
He
the last
does.
thing
He
I
doesn't
ever
like the
want to do
water
is
either.
go on the water, but then you have to. So we have the landlubber mercenary that needs to lead the squad or needs to replace the old captain that got lost. That we now need to defend this vital solar farm that provides. I guess we'd want to set up the stakes as they provide the power to major U.S. cities, and then it would be nice, or like some maybe even one specific U.S. city. And it's always nice if your main character has some loved one in the hospital or something like that, right? Because then, if it loses power, then they'll die, and it's just adds that
Right.
more personal touch rather than just New York will not have power for a while, and that'll be not great. I mean, it sounds like a problem, but it doesn't sound like life or death.
Right, right, right. To raise the stakes. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that's where I'm landing on this. Let's see if the comments have any ideas for us that we haven't looked at so far. Activists who are sea monkeys, says Luke. Is that sea monkey? Why are you guys talking about sea monkeys? Those are little tiny microbes, aren't they? Or little tiny animals? I must have missed something in this sea monkey discussion. What else do people say? Mermaids would be pissed, according to Nacho. That's also true. Maybe in a fantasy take on the story. This is about the like mermaid eco-terror. It's like Fern Gully, but with mermaids versus the the corporate solar panel people. Becky says the view would be a problem. Yep. Okay. So the Karens of the world would certainly have an issue with it destroying their beautiful view of the ocean. Kelp would die. Yeah, maybe it would damage underwater plant life, and I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. What else we got? Maybe it's a way for the government to give out radiation to kill the weak and the poor. Give out radiation. Is this talking about the solar panel idea still? Nacho says, what if it's like these big solar farms in the desert where all the mirrors reflect to one big central tower, which heats up to crazy high temperatures? I think you could do that on the ocean. I don't know of any reason you couldn't. That'd be kind of neat. That'd be a nice target for the terrorists to be going after, rather than the panel itself. It'd be like the big tower that they're all reflecting onto. That almost feels like a video game boss or something. Nacho mentions we could do a survival movie like Castaway. Someone gets swept away in a big automated solar farm in the middle of the ocean and has to survive and build a raft and avoid sharks. Oh, that's so funny. In a drift solar farm that somebody's stuck on. There's something there too. That's a good take, Nacho. What do you think of that, Nabe?
I like that. I like that. I like that idea a lot.
You could even
Yeah,
have a
that's
bunch
a
of
lot
people.
of
Like,
fun.
imagine it's so big, you could have a bunch of people on it.
Yeah. Uh, Yeah, I mean, it would go on for. I mean, the thing itself would be like thousands of
Yeah.
feet. Like, it would be quite a visual spectacle. So,
Would it roast you to be on it though? Do they get hot? I wonder.
I don't know. I don't think so. One of my relatives has one, and they're not that. They don't get super hot.
They don't. They absorb the heat as they take in the sun. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe you wouldn't just get roasted on it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know, but maybe you do, because it is a big one. I've never.
There's no shade exactly, so you you would
Yeah, there's.
you wouldn't last too long, but you have to kind of figure it. You have to like make a shelter with reeds and leaves and stuff like that, and then like rig it onto the solar panel somehow.
True. True.
And also, while you're afloat, if you could find a way to tap into the power, you could maybe utilize the power, right? Like, imagine you have been swept away. You're not just on your own with just the clothes on your back, but imagine if you have some stuff with you. You could maybe tap into the solar farm and use its electricity to either power a
You
propeller.
can. Yeah, I think Yeah, you can sometimes you can plug devices directly into a solar panel, and so it might be able to like communicate with somebody or do something. So
Sure.
it's actually not a bad place to get stuck on.
If you add a sail to it and plug a propeller into it, now it's a giant boat.
Yeah, it could work. It could work.
What do you think, Becky?
What if there's loads? If there's so it's after like the sea levels have risen, and you've got people that are living on boats, like a someone mentioned water engines, so that but in the sea. So it's literally like, you know, you're like sea while you're living, but it's like cities, and they're tapping into this power. The rich people that still manage to get some of the land want it for them, and so you actually got these two people fighting for this like one power source
Oh, that could work. And
left in the world.
Mortal Engines is the one where the cities sort of consume each other, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking like you got this big city in the ocean made up of ships that are all the poorer people that are trying to use this power, and then you got the rich people that managed to keep the land because they lived in their bunkers and what have you.
Mhm.
So after the oceans have risen, and it's the only like fuel source left in the world.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in the along the lines of Mortal Engines too, you could have groups that each have their own solar panels. That when they conquer the other group, they tear their solar panels apart and add it to their own. Right? Like you have a giant, a growing barge essentially. It's like a sort of post-apocalyptic barge pirate world.
Yeah.
That sounds dope too. Thank you for the ideas, Becky. Now, you have any last thoughts on this one, or go ahead?
I can do stuff that's not just about kids lit.
Yeah, as long as it involves the world being ruined in some way.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Thanks, Becky. Naeem, you want to wrap up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that it should definitely be a movie. It just feels like a movie to me. It just feels like the visual of a gigantic solar panel just feels very cinematic to me. So I definitely feel like it should be a movie.
Yeah, in a show, it would be like something in one episode of a show, or it would be like a setting for a part of a show, but I don't think there's a whole show that we could base around it, probably, unless we really build out the world into the, like, kind of pirate, like, apocalyptic pirate kind of thing we were just talking about. And then in terms of books, again, it just feels like, yeah, like a concept that could be in a book, but books just allow you to get so much bigger than one element like that.
Right.
Thank you for the thoughts.
Welcome.
Looks like we have time for one or two more. We have Michelle and we have Luke, who have volunteered, I think, or I don't know if Luke volunteered, but Michelle definitely did. Hi, Michelle. We can't hear your mic at the moment, so make sure that it's plugged in right and you're on push to talk, or you're not on push to talk. Or maybe try changing devices. Okay, I'll come back to you, Becky. Feel free to keep trying. Not Becky, I'm sorry, Michelle. Michelle, feel free to keep trying and see if you can get it to work. Luke, we'll start with you if you are able to speak, okay?
All right.
Okay, cool. So we'll start with Luke. Michelle, keep trying with that. I'll leave you on the stage. All right, Luke, let's pick an article.
What do we have left?
We have robots pulling carriages. I really don't have too much there. It's just a funny picture and concept. We have... So that's this one here.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, we hear you now.
Okay. Can I speak now?
Yeah, so let's do one at a time. So...
Oh, okay, you want me to wait?
We can, yeah. I guess I just started with Luke. I'm sorry to push you back just one, but let's do Luke first, and then you can be next up. How does that sound?
That sounds fine.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll start with Luke. So we have the robo carriage, we have lab-grown meat of woolly mammoths, and we have air taxis.
What's the headline for this one?
For the taxi one, Chicago to debut first commercial electric air taxi route.
Air taxis, mammoth meat, and robo carriages.
Yeah.
Let's do the robo carriages.
Okay. Initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts, comedy, something funny about a robot driving a rickshaw. What's the title of the article?
Sorry, one sec. I have a video of it I can pull up.
Okay.
I'll turn the sound
After
off.
our sponsor.
Yeah, I have to make sure we don't get copyright struck, so we can't have sound on it. But here's Adam Savage. He's the one that I think made it. And here it is.
And he got the robot from Boston, or he borrowed the robot from Boston Dynamics, I'm assuming.
Yeah, maybe they worked with him on this, but check this out. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, so he
Look at it.
hand built this whole carriage.
It's amazing.
This is custom crafted. All right. It's a
And-
lot nicer than I expected.
Yeah, look at it go. I think it's called the single. This is maybe not called a carriage, but this has a slightly different name. Just the single little thing like that. It's kind of like a rickshaw, but I forget the exact name of it.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I want to be this is like what a Bond villain would use to get around his property, right? Like James Bond shows up and he's like, "Where is everybody?" Then the carriage just walks up to him and he's like, "Oh, well, I suppose I'll thank you, my good man." Right? Like he just gets in, it takes you to the
So
mansion.
Victorian.
I love it. He's kind of struggling a little bit. Obviously, I don't think they're maybe strong enough to. Oh, but look at him
Yeah.
try.
It's adorable.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's pretty cool.
There's
Let's.
something just funny about the concept, and I think it could be.
Yeah.
It could just be about a guy, I guess.
About a guy. Okay. Let's start with.
It doesn't
Let's
have to be a grand
go ahead.
concept.
True.
but
It
I-
could just
I-
be
I
about
just
it's like a wacky inventor or something like that. Let's start with a question, and then we will get
Alright.
to our movie idea or story ideas.
I do like a good how.
Okay. All right. So, how does this disrupt things? Let's start with that one.
How
Does it
this
disrupt
things?
things? The carriage
Oh,
industry will never recover.
I mean, the homeowners association is just trying to find a way to shut this down, because we can't have people trying to walk their little poodles and whatnot with this guy driving his Victorian swag carriage around, you know.
Oh yeah, it will
um,
freak people out. So it will disrupt the social order in that sense, right? Unless you live in
So-
like a San Francisco mansion community, then people are going to
Yeah.
look at that and be like, "What on earth are you doing?"
That's what I think. I think that he lives in some kind of gated community, and the neighbors are upset. The homeowners association has to get involved. He's just, too eccentric. He's causing a disruption.
True.
Uh,
Nacho says the horse poop cleaner union. So this is the Central Park horse tour community. Yeah, that would certainly be impacted by this. What else? How do we know the truth about this? You can interpret these questions however you want.
How do we know the truth about this?
Yeah, maybe imagine what if it's a secret? How would we know the truth about it?
The secret. What would be the secret? Like how he built it? Like did he?
I guess we might imagine. Well, so you can skip the question and pick one of the other ones, or we can just extrapolate. And because like what I'm thinking is something like, how do we know about this? Might imply that this guy in the story has a way better one than anyone else's. Like the one that we just saw would look kind of weak, but what if he has an amazing robo carriage, right?
Okay.
Or you can pick a different. Feel free
I
to
think
choose any of the.
I think it's got to be some internal truth, some self-discovery going on. I don't know.
Or maybe you're saying, what if? How do we know the truth about this? The truth maybe being something that we haven't even discussed yet. There could be some other truth to this that we don't currently know.
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
I might have to break the story to figure out what that is, though.
Well, the robots are evil is the easy version, right?
Yeah, it's my least favorite one for many reasons.
We could come back to it.
But yeah, let's pick another one for now.
How do we approach it safely?
How do we approach
Do we?
this safely? Yeah.
Seatbelts?
I guess. We measure twice, cut once. We apply. We can't have it be too top heavy, or it'll tip over when we try to race it around corners and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We apply engineering principles. Basically, would be my answer.
Yeah, basics, vehicle safety stuff. And
Sure.
then in terms of the robot itself, I mean, if the robot, it depends if we are directly steering it or if it's making decisions and choices for like, do I slow down or do I speed up? Right. This is the kind of autonomous car problem, which is to say, if two people are in the middle of the road, how does it decide which one it swerves towards if it must make that split-second choice?
Oh, we could literally do the trolley problem where
Yeah.
he has to control which which road it speeds down.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So how do we approach that safely? Probably like rigorous training of the AI over time, right? Or something like
Uh,
that.
the trolley problem? I'm not
No,
sure.
no, no. I just
Yeah.
mean in terms of how do we ensure that having an autonomous, intelligent entity controlling our vehicle, how do we approach that safely? I guess
Oh,
just years
well,
of testing and...
we're eccentric. I'm just trying to get inside of the head of this eccentric creator guy.
Oh, okay.
He probably just wants to, order it around like a butler. So he's done lots of like machine learning and like beta testing on like park routes and like streets and sidewalks and stuff.
Okay,
But
so
it's still
planning out the
probably
routes beforehand?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but it's still probably extremely unsafe and prone to like glitching and problems.
Sure. Good points. Let's pick one or two more questions. How does this harm us or others?
It harms the sanctity of the neighborhood. The
Why is that?
somebody is daring to be different around here, and we don't like it. The neighbors are upset. The dog walkers are gonna write letters. Yeah, so it doesn't really do harm though. It's just
It could run somebody over, couldn't it?
okay, yeah, I guess it could run somebody. Oh well, yeah, if we think about all the ways it could glitch out and actually harm or kill somebody.
Yeah,
we're
throw you
talking
off
about
off the side, run you off a cliff.
lithium battery explosion,
Sure.
fireball in the face.
What if it
Um,
rains?
What if it identifies a hole as a really great place to drive the rickshaw?
What if there's a painted tunnel on the wall and it does a Wile E. Coyote?
Yeah, what if it gets in a fight with one of the dogs and tips you over?
Or a horse?
Sure.
Gets in
Yeah,
a
what if
fight
a
with a
horse
horse.
just mule kicks it and then your whole thing turns over?
Oh god. This almost feels
so-
sort of steampunk-ish, doesn't it? Like the whole everybody else has horses but I have a robot horse kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I don't think there'd be a horse in the setting I'm imagining.
I guess there wouldn't be, no.
He might take it to like a park, like a nice central park kind of location there. There might
Okay.
be a horse there.
Or if you let it run free in the fields, obviously, it could always run into other
Oh,
animals.
wild animals? That's a good one.
I mean,
yeah.
don't we want you keep when it's not working, you let it roam around, I guess. Right?
So he takes it in, he takes it off-roading, and an animal mistakes it for prey or a mate, or there's all kinds of stuff that could happen with another animal interacting.
Sure, definitely. Sled dogs, I'm sure, will be upset about this, union-wise at least. The Iditarod will never recover. God, maybe that's the story. A guy enters an Alaskan sled dog race with a bunch of robot dogs. That's kind of cool.
There ain't no rule that says robot dogs can't race.
Balto 2.0. Let's start to figure out a specific take. What are you thinking? What do you like? It sounds like you want to go a lower stakes comedy route.
Yeah, low stakes comedy route, just a singular character focused, mad creator, eccentric weirdo, trying to do some specific goal that must somehow involve this robot carriage. I can't for the life of me tell you what that will be yet.
Winning a race.
Winning the Iditarod, okay.
I mean, winning a
It's
race
his
is
life dream to win the Iditarod. He's just an eccentric creator weirdo, and
he had a prize sled dog, but the dog died, so he made the robot and named it after the dog.
oh, we could do sort of like a Finding Forrester team up with and the young prodigy could be like an AI robotics expert who helps him win the Iditarod to fulfill the old man's dream, that kind of thing.
That's fun. Or what about a Circus Maximus type of deal?
What is Circus Maximus?
The massive chariot racetrack in Rome.
Oh, you mean the thing in Rome? Okay. Yeah. So okay. What about
like a robo racing event, like Real Steel, but with robot carriages?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, Real Steel with robot carriages. I'm not sure I would watch it, honestly.
I would.
Yeah, so maybe if it was fast, if it was as fast as Speed Racer,
I think it'd have to be fast. Yeah, and it probably as big as an actual horse.
Okay, that's getting warmer. I think I could see some interesting things with that.
Well, it's your choice. You're the guest on it, so you get to control it.
I do much prefer just a small movie about an old man, sort of a Robot and Frank kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that just I don't really know what the movie is, but I haven't broken the story yet. But that's that's my take, I guess.
Okay, so I guess that's what we're sort of doing right now, is just figuring out what it could be. So if you have a guy that makes inventions, and we're theming the movie around the carriage specifically, then then you have to either imagine that maybe that relationship between him and the robot is at the sort of core of the movie, right? Like Robot and Frank is an example of that. It's a good one. And then you have to just imagine, what can we do with the carriage? And that's why racing came to mind, I guess, right off the bat. Even if it's a low stakes race, it could always be like just like a local event of some kind, like a rodeo
like a
or something.
Renaissance fair. Yeah,
or Renaissance fair.
Something just, yeah, and there's some dumb event, you know, the hog swivel, I don't know, it just has some stupid name.
Or one
really
of those
wants to compete in it. Go ahead.
Aren't there events where like everyone makes their own go-kart kind of thing? What is that called?
Push cart? Yeah.
Something like that.
That is the thing.
Maybe that's it's like he's too old to make the push carts anymore, but he has technology now. He wants to, recapture the glory of his youth, and he wants to win one of the push cart rallies, I guess, or whatever they're called, like where everybody makes their own crazy skateboard devices and things like that, and has a big race down a hill. Maybe that's the way. I mean, that's pretty low stakes and small, right?
Then we'd lose the little robot, and then the cart itself would be the robot, I think, at that point.
Wait, you mean it'd be against the rules if the robot was powering it?
Oh, a push cart has to be powered by gravity. Yeah, the robot might be able to assist with, like, steering or something.
Okay, well, we could just imagine a scenario or an event that's similar to that. It's like, make your own vehicle and enter, and a bunch of people just make, like, crazy contraptions and put, like, Flintstonian cars and stuff like that. And our little old man who used to be the best at making that, now he's like, me and old Sparky are gonna be the ones that take home the gold this year.
Yeah, it could even work if it's something that was judged, like a dog competition, but I think it would be funnier if it was more of a race, or like wacky wheels, just a bunch of different eccentric weirdos who really dislike this guy for trying to bring a robot and upturn the apple cart.
This is cute. I like this one. This ended up it's almost wholesome.
I like it. It's wholesome.
And at the end, I'm not sure how you want to wrap it up, but they accept their prize together, certainly, like him and the robot. And the robot does a little dance at the foot of the. I can see it all.
It that way, it could be.
Well, what do you want to happen? Something terrible, like Robot and Frank?
Not quite that terrible. Maybe like second place. The
Rocky ending.
Could do.
God.
Like the robot fails at the last minute.
The guy dies halfway through the race.
He carries it across the finish line.
The old man, or the robot dies. The guy thinks he'll die halfway through the race, but then the robot dies, and he has to carry it over the finish line.
Exactly. That's great.
This is so sad, though. We don't want Sparky to die.
He won't die for real. He's a robot. Unlike a person, you can bring him back, in the epilogue.
That's true. I guess we can always do the fake out, the Wall-E fake out, where it seems like
there could be bigger, better versions of the robot. There could be a whole product line of these things in the
Yeah.
epilogue.
And he splices the brain of his beloved childhood pet into all of them, so they behave similarly.
Definitely not.
Right? Charlie says, if you have to swap out all his parts, is it the same robot? That's a good question.
The ship of Theseus argument. Yeah.
Exactly. And Michelle mentions robot dog racing and robot football, so the Airbud connection is strong there. I mean, that would be the sequels, I guess.
Yeah. I think an Airbud version of this would be funny, but do it as a race.
Yeah, I
There
think
ain't no rule that says a dog can't compete in the or a robot dog can't compete in the race.
I think we should add that rule, sir. What if that referee just was like, click, click, takes out a pen? Okay, well, seems as if there is one now. That's so weird. I guess your golden retriever can't play basketball. Okay, any final thoughts on this before we wrap it?
No, I think that works.
All right, print it and mint it. Send it off. Send it to the script factory.
Yeah, I'm not married to it, but I'll put it in my list for the future.
Into the bank. Thanks, Luke.
Yep.
Michelle, let's see if mic works okay. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Hello, Michelle.
Hi. I just want to say that I'm kind of close to these things because when I had my nanotechnology company, right after it folded, I had the opportunity to get into artificial meat, and I didn't take it. Yes, and that was one of the worst mistakes I ever made, and I made it because I kept saying, look, 10 years from now this might be a thing, but right now, we can't even get something to market. And by the and I happen to know a little bit about this. My sister is a farmer. She raises cattle. Okay, she's told me all about the problems she's had with cattle. And, artificial meat's going to taste like crap, and blah, blah, blah. And so, anyway, but,
Okay, yeah, if you prefer to choose it for that reason, you could, obviously, or then we have another option about the flying taxis as well. Which one do you like more?
Well, my ex-boyfriend, when I had my company, said, when you become a billionaire, I want a flying taxi. I said, okay, good, but it never happened. I had some money, but I didn't have that kind of money. Anyway. Let's do the meat.
Okay. So, I'll bring up the article and we can take a look. All right. Scientists are working on ways to achieve something. Wait, hang on. So the very notion of resurrecting the long-extinct woolly mammoth was the stuff of fantasy not that long ago. But scientists are already working on ways to achieve something close to that, using DNA from soft tissue and frozen mammoth remains, and meshing it with that of a modern-day elephant. But while such de-extinction projects may not ultimately succeed, one company is already trying to lay claim to having produced the first meat product made from mammoth DNA. So an Australian cultivated food company that creates meats in laboratory settings from animal cells says that it has used advanced molecular engineering to resurrect the woolly mammoth in meatball form by combining original mammoth DNA with the African elephant DNA. The companies first identified the mammoth myoglobin, which is a protein that's the key to giving meat its color and taste. So I guess it'll taste authentically like a woolly mammoth. And then use
or an elephant.
Right, and then use publicly available data to identify its DNA sequence in mammoths. So it's not 100% mammoth, it's spliced with elephant, but at the same time, it's like the closest we're going to get, really. And we don't have to read the whole article. You can sort of just take it where you want. And go off from there. So what are your initial just thoughts right off the top of your head based on this?
Well, they say everything tastes like chicken.
As in that's the goal, or as in like
No. I mean, it's probably going to taste like chicken. It probably won't be like I've had bison before, and I've had beefalo, and that was pretty good. But I've had good beefalo and I've had bad beefalo, and best beefalo I ever had, or just straight bison, was in Yellowstone. So it really determines how you raise them. But I'm thinking, all right, I see lots of comedy, lots of horror, maybe a few, like Free Willy,
Oh, sure, that's fun.
Free Willy on land, So all right, so let's say I don't pass up that opportunity, and I'm doing that as well as writing, and I say, okay, so, I've got first dibs on mammoth, mammoth burgers, and okay, there's this ancient virus that we didn't know about, in the mammoth burgers, and maybe it becomes a horror movie where people, they don't turn to zombies, but they
Turn into mammoths.
they but,
Start growing tusks. That'd be kind of scary.
right, yeah, it would be kind of weird. They begin growing, very long trunks. That would be weird. Okay, yeah.
You mentioned the sort of Free Willy version of this too, which might be sort of a little. I don't know if you saw a movie called Okja on Netflix. It's spelled Okja, Okja. But it's sort of similar. It's like in a world where they've invented a new animal just to eat it. It's like a sort of giant pig sort of thing. It's like the perfect food source. Then a little girl basically has a pet one, and it gets taken, and she has an adventure to try to get it back. That's kind of how that. So maybe something along those lines would be like we make we bring back a baby mammoth, right? Or like resurrect a baby mammoth, and then you have this sort of like kid bonding with the animal type story. Could go that route too.
Oh, that would be
Let's pick a question.
So my pet mammoth, am I done?
No, let's pick a question. Let's so these all have questions attached to them, but we just go either who, what, where, when, why, or how. Which question do you want to choose?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try how.
How? Okay. So, how does this disrupt things?
We don't need to eat cattle anymore. So the vegetarians and vegans are, they were happy, but now they're also angry because mammoths, the mammoth elephants, they have they have souls and personalities, and we shouldn't be eating them. And we all just happen to love that mammoth elephant burger. We have elephant sized mammoth burgers or mammoth sized elephant burgers, and they're just delicious. And your doctor tells you, look, you gotta cut down on the mammoth burgers, okay, because you gained 30 pounds, and now McDonald's has serious competition from Mammoth Burger. Like I've created Mammoth Burger, and and instead of the golden arches, it's the giant tusk.
Right, sure. So you could disrupt the food industry and
right.
I guess agricultural and meat industry in general, right?
Well, but here's the problem. Okay, if we're actually going to grow mammoths, they're very big animals. What are we going to feed them? And they're going to take up a lot of space. But it is better if we're creating artificial meat. We can control that process. We don't have to make giant animals. Yeah,
so, and in real life too, I don't even think we have to make the whole animal. Like you grow just a little bit of meat at a time, right? But in a story, we might imagine that they want to grow the full thing, just because it might give us more options just from a writing perspective, right? So either way, you can imagine it either way.
Okay, so in this case, environmental activists / terrorists, they have grown. Real woolly mammoths / elephants have been grown, and they're angry because they're being butchered for meat, even though in reality, it's just in the lab. There's no whole animal, but somebody has gone and done that, and now it's Free Willy. They want to release that animal into the wild. It's going to be released it's going to go into Wyoming or something on some person's farm, or maybe they're going to take it to Russia and let it, roam the Russian steppes. So now it's a Free Willy moment. So it's free. I don't know, like release the mammoth.
Release the mammoth. That's a fun title.
Right.
So maybe a rescue storyline where there's a meat company that is maybe not supposed to make the full animal. They're only supposed to grow tissue samples, but they produce a full one either on accident or for a specific reason, and then eco-terrorists, or maybe not even terrorists, environmental activists show up to try to save it. That could work.
Yeah. So that's a Free Willy. The horror one we already did. Maybe people begin growing tusk. It's a B movie, but it becomes a cult classic. And then I don't know what, maybe a love story.
Oh, what's the love story?
I don't know. I um okay, mammoths are produced, and we discovered that they have feelings like we do. They have their brains are almost as intelligent, or as intelligent, but they don't have human language, but they understand it, like dogs and cats. And you know you have two mammoth lovers who've been separated, and the female is pregnant and she gives birth by herself, and these really compassionate people want to get the two back together, and they fall in love.
Oh, the animals fall in love.
The animals were in love, and the rescuers also fall in love. So they
Oh, okay.
reunite. They reunite the mammoth couple. The mammoth father finds out, this is my child, and the two people fall in love, and it's a strange of love story.
I like a two-hander where one of the couples are both animals. That's kind of funny. Like, you don't see that very much, do you?
No, you don't.
Mostly because animals don't really have the concept of being couples the same way. I guess some animals do mate for life. I think elephants do elephants mate for life?
Yes, they do, and see, that's the thing, that
Yeah.
since they're part elephant, maybe that's it. And
Sure.
Also penguins mate for life.
Sure.
And so anyway, I don't know. In a comedy, a comedy could be, the mammoth can talk.
Oh, that's fun.
And it's in a zoo, and it's people come to see it, and it's not happy being in a zoo, and they discover, oh my god, I don't know, Michael the mammoth can talk, and
Then it breaks into the meat lab and grows a bunch of friends for itself, like gremlins.
well, yes, maybe so. I mean, I don't know, with it doesn't have thumbs like we do, but I don't know, maybe it can use its tusk.
The trunk is pretty prehensile. It's pretty
Yes,
dexterous.
it is. So maybe that's it. Maybe it can, it does that. I mean, I don't know, but and they escape from the zoo,
So when we grow into the lab, we amplify the intelligence by splicing. Maybe the mammoth is a highly intelligent animal, and the elephant is too. And when we splice them together, they become exponentially more intelligent, and actually now can have human level sort of sapience, right?
Right, and I don't know how they're able to talk, but and they, like elephants do, they have like elephants have infrasound, where they can, hear sounds from miles and miles away, and they can produce those things. And they can produce it too, and we can't hear it, but they can, and so they're calling their elephant friends to help them come, rescue them. I don't know, but there's, again, maybe there's like, empathetic zookeepers who, but there's a comedy of errors. I'm thinking of the movie Zookeeper. I love that movie. And it's a comedy of errors,
Sure. And we could get the elephant to talk as well if you have a brain implant that reads. We already have stuff that's going down this road.
Okay.
It can read its electrical impulses from its brain and reinterpret those using AI and synthesize it into speech, like the dog from Up, or like something like that, right? So I think we could think of a sci-fi reason why it would actually be able to synthesize its thoughts into expression.
That's happening already. Oh my God. See, like, some of this stuff, like the floating solar farm, I've been thinking about that for 15 years, but I don't have the technology to, and I'm not even good with this stuff, but I've been thinking about it, like, oh, that would be so great. And anyway, but yeah, I think that would be all really great. So I appreciate you letting me come on.
Sure, a lot of ways to go with this. It sounds like this is going more the route of movie than TV show, though, right? Like it sounded like most of the ideas you were coming up with were ideas that could be pretty much explored in one story, like a rescue, or like teaming up with an animal to escape from something, or something like that. Those are like basically just one goal stories. Do you think there's anything for a TV show or book here, or is this definitely a movie?
Well, it could be that you've got you've got a zookeeper, and you've got a drama about the mammoth, in a zoo or in a facility, and they're trying to get it. They're trying to find a way to teach it to talk and use its trunk, for it can manipulate things. And over the arc of the season, it finally learns to say, dada, and they're like, "Oh, it said it," and then the female is pregnant, and when the baby is born in the next season, it looks up at the veterinarian, and says, "Mama." It can like talk immediately, that sort of thing.
And then in the
Or if
next
it
episode, it's like, "Hey, where's my food? Come on, what's the deal?"
Yeah,
It's like getting
right, exactly. It's like,
smarter
I
and
don't
smarter.
want, right, I don't want grass. Are you kidding me? Like, no, what I really want is a muffin or a croissant.
Right, right.
you know. Um, so
If this was
yeah,
a show, I feel like it would limiting it to just mammoths though. Sort of feels almost like we could take if it was a show, you'd almost want to have it be like there's a genetic research lab that is resurrecting the meat of lots of extinct animals, and the mammoths are just like one character or one episode of the show. I feel like you could have
well,
the dodo. You could have. I mean, this is kind of Jurassic Park, the Jurassic
yeah,
Park route, isn't it? But like, what if it was
yeah.
just other extinct animals besides dinosaurs? There could be a whole organization that brings lots of them back?
Well, except that it is really complex. If you just focus on mammoths, for like a season, okay, and then you focus on, the dodo, or bringing back the I forget the actual scientific name, but it's the Tasmanian tiger.
Right.
There's real effort being made for that, um, or bringing back Neanderthals,
Oh God, Neanderthal meat, a delicacy.
Oh, no, 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 not me. There are ancestors, so
Well,
I don't know, we bring them. No, 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 not. I'm sorry, I draw the line there.
okay.
I'll eat mammoth meat, but yeah, that could be the next season, and yeah, there could be like evil corporations wanting to take it over, and these these scientists are the good people,
Yeah.
but they're
The
there's an evil corporation owned by an evil billionaire who just happens to look like Jeff Bezos or something,
there
you
you go.
know.
And he wants to resurrect all the extinct animals to make a reserve where people can hunt them.
Right. Oh, yes. There's one of those. They're not extinct, but there's actually a reserve here in Texas where you can go hunt things. And, if I had a lot of money, I would try to shut it down because I just don't think you should do that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't love it either. But and I could easily see rich evil people especially in a movie, but in real life, even if they had the tech to be like, we're the only place in the world where you can hunt forbidden game, right? You can hunt
Right.
animals that don't exist anymore.
Right. That would work here in Texas. I mean, it's a pro gun state.
Yep.
You don't even have, I mean, I have a gun that I inherited. It's a rifle. I just inherited it. I don't even have any bullets, but I don't have to have any paperwork because that was passed here in Texas, which I don't like. But at the same time, a few years ago, my roommate threatened to kill me.
Oh
And
goodness.
so, yeah, that's why I left. And my boyfriend said, I'm giving you my Glock. And I was like, this thing is too heavy for me. I can't even use this. He's like, you don't need any bullets, just point it. So luckily she didn't find out where I moved, but for a year, I was scared.
Goodness gracious. Okay, well, a whole can of
Yeah,
worms there to be open.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can tell. So
That's okay. So,
we can wrap up for today. Thank you again for all your brainstorming on this topic.
oh, no problem.
So we're at the end of our and thank you to everybody also that shared and contributed today. This was a fun event. I hope everyone is starting to think of how we can narrow down from the larger topic of a big idea, and then by just asking questions and coming up with theoretical possibilities. And what if it went this way? What if it went that way? How could it be used for good? How could it be used for bad? Then it's going to lead to you writing more nuanced sci-fi stories that go beyond just the basics of this technology is bad, here's how it could kill us, right? It's more complicated than that. Like, we want to know not only how it could kill us, but how it could help us, how it could save us, how we could heist it, how it could heist us. How would it be a danger? How could it be exploited? How could other people exploit it? How could good guys exploit it? How could bad people exploit it? So all these questions, I think, are just really valuable when you're digging into the basic idea of your sci-fi, because you want to find that core central sort of scientific premise, and then peel away more and more and more layers of it until you can find sort of that interesting human truth at the center. So thank you again, everybody who has stopped by. Any last questions or thoughts before we wrap up for today? I'll leave you guys with a list of everything we have coming up. Oh, do we have one? I think it was just in the chat, actually. Maybe we can repost it in the chat, or I'll link to that comment. But we have later today, since today is Saturday, we will have Writer's Voice at 7 p.m. There's also a lab if you're an unlimited member. Writer's Lab is today from 4 to 6, so you can bring your questions, topics, and any writing you've done up to 5 pages for feedback. And then tomorrow we have features from 10 to noon, and there will be table readings at 2 p.m. Class schedule is in the Discord comments. I will repost that comment at the bottom of today's chat session. Thank you guys so much. We would look forward to seeing you soon at your next Script Camp event or class, and definitely stick around WordCamp. Here in this server, for the next couple of weeks, we will have these more one-off classes that are going to be open to everybody, public, and from 12 to 2 p.m. on Saturdays for the next few weeks, up until we start our new boot camp session, which will take you all the way through a brand new book from beginning to end, from plotting all the way through writing and executing the whole book in about 12 weeks. That's all I've got. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon. Have a great rest of your weekend.